Shalom WJC family. It is time for our weekly Torah Talk. This week our Parsha is Vayigash from the book of Genesis, almost at the end of the book and coming pretty quickly towards the exciting conclusion of the story of Joseph. The question that I would like to talk about today is what makes Joseph so special and what should we learn from Joseph? Now, don't get me wrong. This person has a relationship with God through dreams that clearly makes him special. He's got a talent and knows how to use that talent. He's very clever, for sure. But what I mean is, what does Joseph add to the chain that we've had so far of our ancestors? Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rivka, Yaakov, Rachel and Leah, and Bilhah and Zilpah, if we want to be ecumenical about it. And now we have 12 brothers, and they're all going to remain Jewish. Right? The previous generations, we knew what made them special. Abraham and Sarah, they were the first Jews. Isaac and Rivka, okay, Isaac was special because he carried on the legacy of the Jewish people. His brother Ishmael did not. Same thing with Jacob and Esav. Jacob continues as a Jew, Esav does not. So we know what makes them special. With Joseph, he's got 11 brothers. They all continue on the line of Judaism. So what makes Joseph special? What does he add that makes him the favored son, not only by Jacob, but by God? And we know that there'll be two tribes for Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh, Jacob's grandsons. So Joseph gets the double portion slated for the oldest son. Now, it could be because he was the firstborn son of Jacob's favorite wife, if not first wife. And so he gets treated as if he's the oldest, even though many of his brothers are older than he is. That being said, I think there's something else that really places Joseph in the line of our ancestry that gives him the title Yosef HaTzadik, which is how the rabbis refer to Joseph the righteous one. What makes Joseph so righteous? What does he bring to the Jewish people that we did not have beforehand? The answer, I believe, is faith. Now, why? What are you telling me? That Abraham had no faith? Isaac had no faith? Jacob had no faith? They spoke to God all the time. They believe in God, but that is not the same as faith. Each of them, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we can throw Sarah and Rivka and maybe Rachel and Leah in there for good measure. Each of them find time and again the need to take matters into their own hands to accomplish what they think or know is God's will. Right? So Abraham uses the ruse of calling Sarah his sister multiple times when he's forced to go to Egypt and to the land of Avimelech. And Isaac is a little unclear exactly where he does this, although he also tries to sort of claim that Rivka is his sister in the land of Avimelech. But Rivka also manipulates things, puts Jacob up to tricking his father into giving him the blessing of the firstborn back in Parshat Toldot. Jacob himself lives as a trickster most of his life, first with his father and his brother, and later in the home of his uncle Lavan. Joseph is a straight shooter. Joseph tells it like it is. Joseph is either very naive and not too bright, or he has tremendous faith that God will make God's plans work out the way they are supposed to. His predecessors all seem to think they need to take matters into their own hands. Joseph, not so much. And Joseph doesn't seem not so bright. Joseph organizes the rationing and distribution of food for an entire empire, let's assume he's pretty smart. So what makes him different? Why doesn't he use his wits to get ahead? Well, Joseph's faith is revealed to us in this week's portion when he reveals himself to his brothers. Spoiler alert, although this story is several thousand years old, so I think we can let it go. In chapter 45, Joseph reveals himself to his brothers and says immediately, "And now, be not distressed, nor reproach yourselves for having sold me here." This is verse 5. Ki lemichya shalachani Elohim lifnechem. Because in order that we would live, you would live, I would live, God sent me here before you. Right? This was not your doing. This was God's plan all along. I am supposed to be here so that my family would find food during the famine and we would continue to survive. And later in verse 8, he repeats it. And now, it was not you who sent me here, but God. V'ata. Lo atem shalachtem oti hena. It was not you who sent me here. Ki ha-Elohim. It was God. Vayisimeni la'av leParo u'la'adon l'chol beito u'Moshe b'chol eretz Mitzrayim. He has made me father to Pharaoh, master of his entire household, and ruler throughout the entire land of Egypt. Right? Joseph sees in all of his trials and travails God's plan. Is this what comforted Joseph in the pit? Is this what comforted Joseph in the prison, the jail where he was sent after Potiphar's wife claimed he had assaulted her? Maybe. Is this what kept Joseph going all the time he was away from home, even when he was doing well in Potiphar's house or in Pharaoh's house, now basically running Egypt for 9 years? Maybe. Joseph is a man of faith. And because of his faith, he feels not the need to be deceitful. He feels not the need to manipulate things. He tells it like it is and assumes that God will do the rest. And look, his life's been pretty extraordinary. Saved from the pit by his brothers, being raised to high stature in Potiphar's house, so that he's basically running the place, finding himself back in jail. But then the dreams of the butler and the wine steward and the baker, again, finding himself elevated now to Prince of Egypt. He has every reason to have faith, despite the trials and travails. It's that faith that kept him going when things were bad. It's that faith that Joseph brings to our people. The ability to say, yes, we have faced some pretty awful times, sometimes the most horrific imaginable by human beings. And yet, there's also a destiny to who we are as the Jewish people. There's also a destiny to where we are going. And if we can't quite see what that destiny is, then maybe we're just not seeing the big enough picture. Because remember, it's not like Joseph knew this all along, right? The word that repeats in the 2 verses that I mentioned, in verse 5, Ve'ata, and now don't be distressed. And later in verse 8, Ve'ata, and now it was not you who sent me here. It's only now making sense to Joseph. But the faith was there all along. Joseph, who appears sometimes to be very arrogant because he just tells things like they are, in fact, his great trait is humility. Understanding that he's not in control, but that he can trust in God who is in control. Only now, faced with his brothers and ready to redeem the entire family, is Joseph able to forgive, to reveal, to move the whole Jewish project forward. Only now. But all along he acted with faith. That is what makes Joseph special. Joseph understood his assignment. Go to Egypt. Be in the places that God puts you. Have faith that there is a reason. Trust that you have a purpose. And even though that purpose didn't come clear until this point, Joseph was able to live every day, the good and the bad, because of that faith, because of that trust. It's not easy to have that kind of faith. It's not easy to trust and therefore not feel every second like we need to take care of every detail and we need to be totally in control. But of course, we can't be those things. We can't be in control. We can't control every detail. So a little faith goes a long way. May we all be blessed with that kind of grace, the grace that Joseph has in our Parsha, Parshat Vayigash, to trust that there's a greater plan and that even when things are bad, even when we can't see that plan through the darkness, that God has a reason for us. God has a purpose for us. And we need only have faith, and we will make it through together with our shared destiny. That is the gift of Joseph. Shabbat Shalom.